The courtroom air crackled, thick with a tension you could slice with a knife. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird, but my hands, clasped in my lap, were rock steady. Across the polished table, Zach, my soon-to-be ex-husband, shifted in his bespoke suit, his face a ghastly shade of pale green under the fluorescent lights. His lawyer, a bulldog of a man, was shuffling papers, a frown etched deep into his jowly face. This was it, the culmination of 20 years of biting my tongue, of swallowing my pride, of being the wallpaper in my own life. After careful review of all presented evidence, Judge Mariana Henderson's voice cut through the silence, cool and decisive. This court finds that the funds in question, transferred to Mrs. Amanda Mitchell by her mother, Mrs. Bess Wallace, were indeed a post-separation personal gift, designated solely for Mrs. Mitchell's use. My lawyer, Heather, a shark in a tailored suit and my rock through this hell, gave my arm a discreet squeeze. The judge continued, her gaze fixing on Zach. Therefore, Mr. Zachary Mitchell has no legal claim whatsoever to these funds. The gavel came down with a sharp, definitive crack. Relief, potent and overwhelming, washed through me. Zach's jaw dropped, his eyes wide with a disbelief that was almost comical. He looked like a fish gasping for air, his expensive charade of concern for family assets shattered. This was my Christmas, my New Year's, my everything, all rolled into one glorious, vindicating moment. And to think, this whole glorious, life-altering mess started just 2 days before Christmas, because my darling daughter Samantha decided I was the perfect person to watch Coco, our neurotic Maltese, while the rest of them jetted off to Hawaii. That was the spark, the tiny insult that finally lit the fuse on 2 decades of explosive resentment, 2 days before Christmas. I'd woken before dawn, a familiar ache in my lower back, a testament to my age, and a life spent catering to others. The farmer's market was already bustling. I filled my worn wicker basket with the freshest cranberries, sprigs of rosemary, and a plump, free-range turkey, humming a carol under my breath. Back home, the kitchen soon filled with the warm, inviting aroma of Samantha's favorites, my famous lemon herb roasted chicken, creamy garlic mashed potatoes, and pecan pie. My heart, foolish thing, swelled with a pathetic sort of anticipation. She'd just wrapped up her first year at that fancy new marketing job, the one that paid her more than Zach and I had ever made combined in our early years. She'd insisted on working right up until the last day, eager to impress her boss, a go-getter, my Samantha. Or so I thought. I stepped forward, trying to reclaim some parental territory, and gently took her hand. My smile felt stiff. I asked, "Long day, sweetheart? Are you hungry? I made all your favorites. I can heat them up." She didn't even make eye contact. "Mom, can you not with all the pointless little questions?" she snapped, her voice sharp with annoyance. She pulled her hand away as if I'd burned her. My breath caught. Then, her face glowing with excitement, she crouched down, unzipped a sleek, oversized suitcase, and pulled out a stack of brightly wrapped envelopes. She arranged them on the coffee table with a flourish, like a game show host about to reveal the grand prize winners. Just then, Zach's younger brother, Jason, and his perpetually pleasant wife, Emily, walked in, their arms laden with store-bought cookies and a bottle of cheap wine. Their eyes immediately landed on the envelopes. Jason said, genuinely impressed, "Wow, Samantha, looks like you're crushing it at the new job. Guessing those are gifts for everyone? That's really thoughtful of you." The moment Samantha saw Emily, she leaped up with a delighted shriek and enveloped her in a hug that could crack ribs. She cried, "Auntie Em, I missed you so much." I froze. Auntie Em. It struck me then, with the force of a physical blow, she could bestow family status on anyone but me, her own mother. As everyone gathered around the coffee table, Samantha cleared her throat, beaming. She announced, her voice resonating with self-importance. "To thank you all for supporting me this year, I prepared a little something for each of you. This one's for Dad," she declared, handing Zach a crisp envelope, a $1,000 Visa gift card. She continued, bestowing envelopes on Harold and Beverly. "Grandpa and Grandma, Each get a $300 spa voucher. She proclaimed, handing one to Jason. Uncles get $200 gourmet market. Cards. I didn't move. I just watched, my smile now a painful rictus, as she distributed the gifts, her pride practically radiating off her. Emily, bless her kind heart, nudged Samantha gently and whispered, "Sweetheart, I think you might have missed someone." Samantha smacked her forehead playfully. She chirped, "Oh my gosh, you're right, Auntie Em. I think there's one more in my bag somewhere." A sliver of pathetic hope flickered within me. So, she had remembered me. Maybe she was saving mine for last. Maybe it was something special, something truly from the heart. I even found myself extending my hand, a supplicant waiting for a crumb. Samantha bent down, rummaged in her designer handbag, and then, cooing like I hadn't heard since she was 5, she scooped up Coco, our little Maltese, cradling the yapping furball like a precious infant. She tenderly slid the last smallest envelope into Coco's ridiculous little Christmas sweater. She cooed, planting a kiss on the dog's head. "And this one's for you, Coco Bear, for being such a good girl all year." I stood there, stunned. My smile froze solid. My outstretched hand hung in the air, utterly useless, a monument to my own foolish expectations. After what felt like an eternity of choked silence, I managed to find my voice, a quiet, trembling thread. I asked, "Samantha, what about mine?" She turned to me, her expression breezy, her voice like shattered glass. She said, with a dismissive wave of her hand, "Oh, Mom, you're home all day. You don't work. You wouldn't understand how utterly exhausting my job is. I mean, you cook and clean, sure, but that's like your choice, isn't it? You didn't really help me with anything important this year. So why would I get you a gift?" Emily gasped and rushed over, trying to pull Samantha toward the couch, whispering urgently for her to stop. But Samantha, high on her own perceived magnificence, wasn't done. She grinned, a wide, cruel curve of her lips, and pulled another surprise from her bag, a sheaf of glossy pamphlets. She announced, her eyes sparkling, "Oh, and guess what else? I booked flights for everyone to spend New Year's in Hawaii. We leave tomorrow night." I stood there, reeling, my mind a maelstrom of disbelief and a dawning, terrible clarity. Well, fine, I thought numbly. No gift. But at least we're going on a trip together. Maybe this was her way of making amends, of showing she cared, deep down. She was my daughter. Surely she wouldn't hold a grudge or be this cruel without some kind of payoff. I started sifting through the pile of travel documents with the others, looking for my boarding pass, a sliver of hope still flickering. But there wasn't one with my name on it. I looked up at her, my confusion morphing into a cold dread. I repeated, a strange calmness descending over the inferno in my chest. "Go? You know what, Zach? That's the first sensible thing you've said all night." I yanked off the holly-embroidered apron, the symbol of my servitude, balled it up and threw it onto the couch. Without another word, I turned on my heel and stormed into the bedroom, the shocked silence of the living room ringing in my ears. My hands were shaking, but my mind was surprisingly clear. I grabbed the old battered suitcase from the top of the wardrobe, the one I hadn't used since our disastrous 10th anniversary trip to a soggy Blackpool, and started yanking clothes from drawers, shoving them in haphazardly. Sweaters, jeans, underwear, my sensible walking shoes, wallet, ID, passport, just in case. Just as I zipped the bulging suitcase shut, Emily rushed in, her face etched with concern. She caught my arm, her grip surprisingly firm. She pleaded, her voice low and urgent. "Amanda, don't. It's late. It's practically Christmas. Where will you even go?" She glanced back towards the living room and called out, her voice strained. "Samantha! Zach! Talk to your mother. Don't just let her walk out like this." Samantha didn't even bother to sit up. I could hear the disdain in her voice as it drifted from the other room, loud and clear. She drawled, her tone bored and utterly dismissive. "Let her go, Auntie Em. What's she going to do? Run back to her mummy's house like a teenager? Please. She throws these little tantrums all the time. She'll be back tomorrow, tail between her legs, like she always is." I stood there, frozen, Emily's hand still on my arm, stunned. 25 years of love, of sacrifice, of putting their needs before my own, boiled down to this: a little tantrum. If my own mother, Bess, ever heard how I was spoken to tonight, how I was dismissed, it would break her gentle heart. I shook off Emily's hand, not unkindly, but with a finality that surprised even myself. I didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. I picked up my suitcase and walked straight out the front door, not even a backward glance at the shattered cookies or the shattered illusion of my family. Once I hit the cold night air of the sidewalk, the December chill biting at my face, I pulled out my phone. My fingers fumbled slightly as I dialed the number I knew by heart. I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though hollow, "Mum? It's Amanda." Bess's warm voice, a balm to my raw soul, responded, "Amanda, honey, what a lovely surprise." I continued, taking a deep breath. "Mum, I'm not coming home for the holidays this year. I need some time away, some space. Maybe I'll take a little trip." There was a pause, just a few seconds, but it felt longer. Then she replied, her voice gentle, understanding, without a hint of judgment. "That sounds like a very good idea, honey. A change of scenery might do you a world of good. Just be safe, okay? Promise me you'll be safe." After another brief pause, she added, almost casually, "Oh, and sweetheart, remember, I told you I was thinking of selling the old house on Willow Creek. Well, it's done. The sale went through last week, and the money's in the bank. Just thought you should know." She could hear it, of course. She always could. She heard the unspoken pain, the years of hurt I'd never dared voice. But she didn't pry, didn't ask for details. She never pushed. She just supported me, quietly, completely, unequivocally. I said softly, a lump forming in my throat, "Mum, I'm okay, really. I don't need anything right now, but thank you. If I ever do, I promise I'll ask. I mean it. Thank you for always being there." That first evening in the Maldives, as the sun bled crimson and gold into the Indian Ocean, I allowed myself a small, genuine smile. I'd even managed a light dinner, fresh grilled fish and a salad, without the usual knot of anxiety in my stomach. Later, scrolling idly through social media on the villa's surprisingly fast Wi-Fi, I saw Samantha's inevitable post, a carefully curated photo from their hotel restaurant in Maui. Glasses of champagne raised, artfully disheveled hair, forced, bright smiles, all basking in the synthetic glow of what they wanted the world to believe was a perfect family holiday. The caption read, "Aloha, making memories with the best fam ever, so blessed. Hawaii, Dashif family vacation, Dashin New Year's." I glanced at the image, a ghost of my old bitterness stirring, then calmly powered off my tablet. My time was too precious to waste on their performative happiness. Meanwhile, I was truly living. I went snorkeling and saw coral reefs teeming with fish like animated jewels. I took a sunset yoga class on the beach. I even learned to say hello and thank you in Divehi from a smiling waiter named Hassan. No obligations, no roles to perform, just pure, unadulterated freedom. The kind I hadn't tasted in 20 long, suffocating years. I let out a quiet laugh, a genuine, happy sound, and whispered to the empty villa, "Being young is nice, Samantha, but being free, oh, honey, that's so much better." I snapped a few photos of the breathtaking sunset, the palm trees silhouetted against the fiery sky, and the pristine beach. I posted one on my long-dormant Instagram account, the one I'd created years ago and then forgotten about. My caption was simple: "Finding paradise and myself. You only get one life. Be good to yourself. Ako, Maldives, and solo travel peace." Within a minute, my burner phone buzzed. A voice message. Samantha. Her voice was high-pitched, almost hysterical, the carefully constructed vacation composure clearly shattered. She shrieked, her voice cracking, "Mom, Mom, how could you? Are you seriously in the Maldives? You're using Dad's hard-earned money to go on some wild, extravagant vacation by yourself, while I've been working my butt off all year and barely saved anything. Do you even care about us anymore? You are so unbelievably selfish. What about Coco? What if something happens to her? I didn't listen to the rest. I just swiped it away, deleting the message without a second thought. She was right about one thing, though. I was being selfish. And for the first glorious time in my life, I was absolutely, unequivocally okay with that. I was being selfish with my time, my energy, my peace of mind. I was reclaiming my right to breathe, to live on my own terms. My only regret was not doing it 2 decades sooner. So I posted another photo. This time, it was a deliberately casual shot of my feet propped up on a sun lounger, a cocktail with a little umbrella in my hand, the turquoise lagoon sparkling in the background. The caption was just 5 words, next stop on the healing journey. That, apparently, was the moment Samantha finally, well and truly, broke. The calls started coming in thick and fast, voicemail after voicemail piling up on the burner phone I now kept mostly on silent. Frantic, misspelled texts demanding answers. Where are you? Why did you run away? Why are you wasting Dad's M&A? Are you insane? Why are you acting like a child? I didn't answer a single call. I didn't reply to a single text. Eventually, with a deep sense of satisfaction, I accessed the phone's settings and blocked her number, and Zach's, and Harold's and Beverly's for good measure. The silence that followed was blissful. Emily later told me, in hushed tones over a brief encrypted call I allowed, that Samantha, fuming and inconsolable, had unilaterally changed her return flight. The planned 7-day Hawaiian extravaganza was unceremoniously cut short to just 2. She'd apparently stormed into my mother's house the following evening, bursting into tears in Bess's usually calm living room. Samantha had wailed, according to Emily's second-hand account, collapsing dramatically onto Bess's antique chintz sofa. "Grandma, Mom's being totally selfish and irrational. She ran off overseas, probably with some new man, while we were trying to celebrate as a family. She's cut contact with all of us, and she's spending all of Dad's hard-earned money like it's water. Now she's even blocked me, her own daughter. You have to talk some sense into her, Grandma. You have to make her come home." My mother, Bess, apparently sat silently for a long moment, her gaze steady, her hands resting calmly in her lap. Then she looked up at her hysterical granddaughter and said, her voice quiet but firm, "Let me ask you something, Samantha. When your whole family jetted off to Hawaii, did any of you, even for a second, ask your mother if she wanted to come along?" Samantha, Emily reported, froze. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Nothing came out. Zach, who had apparently been lurking in the hallway, jumped in quickly, trying to smooth things over with his usual bluster. He'd interjected, stepping into the room. "Now, Bess, you've got it all wrong. Amanda said she didn't want to come. She was trying to save money. You know how frugal she can be." "That's funny, Zachary. Just a moment ago, your daughter was accusing Amanda of spending too much money. Now you're saying she was trying to save it. Which version of the story are we going with today? Let me make this perfectly, crystal clear to both of you. No one, and I mean no one, gets to bully my daughter and think they'll get away with it. She has me. And with me behind her, she will never, ever need anyone's pity or their unsolicited financial advice. She doesn't lack for anything. Least of all," Bess had added, her eyes glinting, "your pathetic crumbs." Then, according to Emily, Bess had stood up, pointed a regal finger towards the front door, and said, without raising her voice but with an undeniable air of command, "Get out." Zach and Samantha, stunned into silence, had apparently shuffled out, their faces a mixture of shock and dawning horror. It wasn't until they were sitting in their car, the silence hanging thick and heavy between them, that Zach had blinked and muttered, as if a terrible thought had just struck him. "Wait a minute. I remember now. Your Grandma Bess mentioned a while back she was selling the old Willow Creek house." His voice trailed off. Emily said that from the way Bess had talked that day, with such steel in her voice, Zach had pieced it together. He'd apparently whispered, his face draining of color, "If it's already sold, she must have given all that money to your mom." Samantha's face, Emily recounted, had gone ashen. She'd gasped, her voice barely a squeak. "What? Grandma sold the Willow Creek house? That place is worth a fortune. No wonder Mum filed for divorce. She wants to take all that money and run. This can't happen, Dad. We have to get that money back. It's family money. Family money. The irony was almost too much to bear. I stayed in the Maldives for 2 glorious, transformative weeks. Long enough for my skin to turn golden, my hair to bleach a little in the sun, and my soul to begin healing. The day I booked my flight back, not to the oppressive silence of my marital home, but to a short-term furnished apartment I'd found online in a different part of the city, I felt a sense of calm resolve I hadn't known in years. I was ready. The moment I stepped through the door of my old house to collect the last of my personal belongings, Zach looked like a drowning man who'd just spotted a leaky dinghy. He'd clearly been expecting me to crawl back, full of apologies and regret. Instead, he saw a woman tanned, rested, and radiating a quiet confidence he'd never witnessed before. He picked up his phone with visibly shaking hands and speed-dialed Samantha. He hissed into the receiver, his voice a strained whisper. "She's back. Get home. Now. I told you she wouldn't go through with it. If she actually signed those damned papers, we'd be out at least 300 grand, maybe more with the house." I did several very important things that day, under Heather's calm, expert guidance. I systematically froze all joint accounts I still held with Zach. Every penny that was rightfully mine, every asset, was meticulously moved into a brand new, entirely private suite of accounts, under my name only. I updated my will, a document I hadn't looked at since Samantha was a toddler. Every authorized name that had once been Zachary Mitchell's or Samantha Mitchell's was carefully, and with no small amount of satisfaction, removed and replaced with my mother's, and then a charitable foundation I'd long admired. I emailed Heather with full, explicit instructions to handle every aspect of the divorce proceedings, empowering her to act decisively on my behalf. Heather, bless her, had the mind of a legal textbook and the loyalty of a pit bull. Finally, I called my new financial advisor, a stern, no-nonsense woman Heather had recommended, and activated enhanced multi-factor authentication and stringent verification protocols on all my new accounts. No money, not a single cent, could move without my explicit in-person, photo ID verified consent. The days of "just sign here, honey" were well and truly over. A week after I'd made the final financial split, severing the last monetary ties to Zach, Samantha reached out again. This time, it was a series of voice messages left on my new private cell phone number, a number only Bess and Heather possessed. How she'd gotten it, I could only guess. Probably wheedled or tricked out of some distant, unsuspecting relative. Her tone in the first message was light, breezy, almost offensively cheerful, as if nothing unpleasant had ever transpired between us. She chirped, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. "Mom, you're just so amazing. Going to the Maldives and Iceland and Norway, all by yourself. Was it absolutely beautiful? I'd love to hear all about it sometime. Maybe next time we could travel together. Somewhere even farther, even more exotic. Just us girls." I didn't respond. I just deleted the message. A day later, another message came in. This time her voice was tighter, more brittle, the forced cheerfulness fraying at the edges. She queried, "Mum? Things haven't been great lately. At work, I mean. There were some layoffs, unexpected. And, well, I was thinking, maybe I could, come home, stay with you for a little while, just until I get back on my feet." Still, I said nothing. I wanted to see just how long she could keep this pathetic charade going. 2 days after that, she sent a screenshot. A credit card statement, with a balance that made my eyes water, every line item a testament to her profligate spending. The caption she'd typed beneath it read simply, "My card's totally maxed out. Really, really wish I hadn't spent so much before. All that uncertainty. I miss you, Mum. So much." That one, I admit, nearly made me laugh out loud. Miss me, or miss my, or rather her father's, rapidly dwindling ability to bail her out. Her teary apologies, her feigned regret, her carefully crafted sob stories. It was all part of the same tired, predictable script. And I knew, with chilling certainty exactly what scene came next. If I caved, even a little, if I showed even a sliver of my old maternal weakness, she'd ramp up the drama, dial up the waterworks, cue the heart-wrenching performance, the prodigal daughter, lost and alone, begging for forgiveness, for sanctuary, for cash. I calmly tapped my screen, activating the call recording overlay I'd so presciently installed. My tone, when I spoke again, remained exquisitely measured, every word deliberate, every syllable freighted with meaning. I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper, but clear and cold as a winter morning. Samantha, you are, of course, aware that this entire conversation is being recorded, aren't you? I will be forwarding a copy of this recording, along with your previous messages, to my legal team first thing in the morning, as supporting evidence in my petition for a restraining order and a no-contact directive. Silence. A stunned, absolute silence on the other end of the line. Then I heard it. The first choked sob. Her carefully constructed composure didn't just crumble, it imploded. She started sobbing. Great, gulping, body-racking sobs. Full-blown, guttural crying, the kind that's usually reserved for Greek tragedies. She wailed, her voice thick and mucusy. I can't do this anymore. How can you be so heartless, so cruel? Don't you remember that night I had that awful fever when I was little, and you didn't sleep for a second? You sat by my bed the whole entire time, holding my hand, sponging my forehead. Doesn't any of that mean anything to you anymore? I took a breath, a deep, steadying breath that reached all the way down to my toes. I said softly, my voice tinged with a sadness so profound it ached. I remember, Samantha. I remember it vividly. I remember how I didn't dare drink a single drop of water that whole night because I was so scared you'd wake up, even for a second, and not see me right there beside you. I remember when you were 6 years old, Samantha, and you told me that when you grew up, you were going to buy me a big, beautiful house with a white picket fence. When you were 10, you promised, with all your heart, that you'd take me to Hawaii one day. But Samantha, I continued, my voice gaining a quiet strength, I also remember how, when you were 16, you told me I was embarrassing for being a stay-at-home mom. You asked me, no, you begged me, not to show up at your parent-teacher conferences anymore. You told me to my face that I was useless, that I couldn't help you with your advanced homework, that because I didn't earn any money, I didn't deserve your respect, or anyone else's. She shrieked through the phone line, her voice raw with a thwarted rage. So that's it? You're cutting me off? Over that? Over some stupid teenage stuff I said years ago? You'd throw away everything, our whole family, for this? My voice dropped to a whisper again, but it was a whisper that could freeze fire. Cold, clear, final. I said, my heart heavy but resolute. No, Samantha, I'm cutting you off because you're now attempting to use the genuine love and sacrifice I did give you, freely and unconditionally for years, as emotional leverage. I'm cutting you off because you seem to believe that affection is a bargaining chip, that memories are currency, that a mother's love is something you can extort on demand. I can forgive youthful immaturity, Samantha. I can even, eventually, forgive cruelty born of ignorance, but I will not be emotionally blackmailed. Not by you, not by anyone, not anymore. Then, before she could utter another word, another sob, another accusation, I ended the call. I immediately opened her contact profile on my phone, blocked her number on every platform, set her profile so she could never message or add me again, and I didn't leave so much as a single word of goodbye. There was nothing left to say. That evening, I opened the refrigerator and saw the large glass jar of pickled cucumbers I'd made just the day before, using my grandmother's old recipe. I'd made them almost unconsciously, out of decades of habit, with Samantha vaguely in mind. Just in case, a foolish, stubborn part of me had whispered, just in case she showed up at my door, genuinely apologetic, truly remorseful, one last time. Now, I took the jar out, its contents crisp and green, a monument to a hope that had finally, irrevocably, died. I walked it over to the kitchen trash can, lifted the lid, and dropped it in with a dull, unsatisfying thud. I wasn't saving anything for her anymore. Not even the hope that the daughter I remembered might someday, miraculously, come back. She was gone, and in her place was a stranger I no longer recognized, and no longer had any obligation to forgive. I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Of course, he did. Of course, Zach, ever the opportunist, ever the victim in his own narrative, would stoop that low. And of course, he'd try to paint me as the manipulative one. But here was the cold, hard, beautifully documented truth. My mother's money, every single cent of it, was transferred to me after I had physically moved out of the marital home. After I had formally and officially separated from Zach. After I had already sent him the initial divorce papers via email. Bess hadn't given it to me as some belated wedding gift or a joint investment opportunity. It wasn't part of some long-term family financial strategy. She had sent it to me precisely 2 months prior, the very day after I'd called her from that anonymous hotel room, my life in tatters, when she saw me at my absolute lowest, when she recognized the desperation in my voice even though I'd tried to hide it. She hadn't even explained her actions. She'd just sent the funds, with that simple, powerful note in the transfer description. For my daughter's life, her own life, non-refundable. It was clean. It was timed. It was documented, down to the minute. And now, Zach, in his infinite audacity, wanted to twist that timeline, to muddy those waters, to try and paint it as joint property simply because the divorce decree hadn't yet been finalized. His legal claim, as Heather explained it, stated with breathtaking arrogance, while the substantial funds in question originated from the petitioner's now estranged mother-in-law, the transfer occurred during the extant legal marriage. As such, both parties had theoretical access and therefore shared entitlement to said funds. Furthermore, the respondent, Zachary Mitchell, has no objection to these funds being utilized to support the ongoing needs of the family, including the future educational and emotional well-being of our beloved daughter, Samantha, whose life has been needlessly disrupted by the petitioner's impulsive actions. Oh, so that's what this was about, I thought, a bitter taste in my mouth. Supporting the family, or more accurately, funding his next personal growth journey, his next golf club membership, his next ill-advised venture capital scheme, or, more likely, bailing out Samantha from her latest financial self-immolation. I said, my voice calm, my resolve solid as granite. He's not getting a dime, Heather. Heather agreed, a hint of steel in her tone. Damn right he's not. We've got this, Amanda. Don't you worry. And so, we got to work. Heather, a legal virtuoso, meticulously assembled our counter-offensive. We submitted every piece of documentation. The precise date and time of the electronic fund transfer, a full 2 weeks after I had moved out, and formally, in writing, notified Zach of my intention to file for divorce. The official bank statements for the receiving account, newly created and solely under my maiden name, Amanda Wallace, an account to which Zach had never had access, nor prior knowledge. Most importantly, perhaps, was the original text message my mother had sent me the very day she wired the funds, a message I had saved, instinctively knowing it might one day be crucial. It read simply, Amanda, darling, don't you dare let him touch a single cent of this. This is for you. For the first time in your adult life, you get to spend money on yourself, for yourself. No questions asked, no guilt trips allowed. Build your own damn boat. Love, Mom. This wasn't just a financial dispute, I realized with dawning clarity. This was Zach finally, irrevocably, showing his true, grasping, desperate cards. He wasn't afraid of the divorce itself. He was terrified of losing control. Terrified of me being independent. Terrified of me having resources he couldn't touch, couldn't influence, couldn't exploit. The day of the hearing arrived, grey and drizzly, mirroring my mood before Heather's pep talk. Zach showed up in the same tired, slightly too shiny grey suit he'd worn at countless joyless family occasions, the one he'd probably worn when he married me, convinced he was getting a compliant domestic goddess. Now, he wore it to try and legally pick my pockets. He stood before Judge Henderson, attempting to sound reasonable, concerned, the benevolent patriarch forced into this unpleasantness. He intoned, his voice smooth as polished deception. "Your Honor, I just want clarity on the equitable distribution of marital assets. We both have a solemn responsibility to our daughter, Samantha, and her future." Judge Mariana Henderson, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 40s, with a no-nonsense demeanor, was visibly not amused. After carefully, and with growing impatience, flipping through the key documents Heather highlighted, she looked up, her gaze stern, and delivered her ruling in one concise, unambiguous line. Her voice echoed with the finality I'd craved for 2 decades. She declared, her gaze fixing on Zach, who suddenly looked small and deflated. After careful review of all presented evidence, this court finds that the funds in question, transferred to Mrs. Amanda Mitchell by her mother, Mrs. Bess Wallace, were indeed a post-separation personal gift, designated solely for Mrs. Mitchell's use. Her eyes flicked to Heather, then back to Zach. She decreed, "Therefore, Mr. Zachary Mitchell has no legal claim whatsoever to these funds." Petition denied. Case dismissed. She asked, her eyes twinkling. "You know what he's really afraid of, Amanda?" I sipped the steaming coffee, the warmth spreading through me. I prompted, "Enlighten me, O wise counsel." Heather mused. "He's not truly afraid of being broke, not really. He's always been a scrambler." "No, he's afraid that you're not broke. He's terrified that you can now exist, thrive even, spend money, make decisions, live your life, entirely without asking his permission, without his control, without his say-so. That's what eats him alive." I laughed, a quiet, genuine laugh that came from deep within. I said, a newfound clarity settling over me like a comforting shawl. "No, Heather. What scares him most, what truly terrifies both him and Samantha, isn't just the divorce, or even the money. It's the irrefutable fact that I left, and that I'm not just surviving without them. I'm thriving. I'm doing better. And they can't stand it." I glanced down at the official court document Heather had just handed me, still warm from the court clerk's printer. Across the top, in bold black letters, it read, "Decree Nisi of Divorce, Mitchell versus Mitchell, officially filed and granted." And those words, those plain printed words, felt more comforting, more secure, more real than any pretty, empty vow he had ever made to me. The day I walked out of that courtroom, a free woman in every sense of the word, I didn't go back to my temporary apartment. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I walked 2 blocks down to the old stone building of the City Central Library, the place where I'd once worked part-time, so many years ago, before Zach had convinced me my real place was at home. I walked up to the main circulation desk, and I asked for a volunteer application. It had always been a quiet, unvoiced dream, a little spark I'd kept alive in the deepest corners of my heart, helping people find the stories they needed, the information that could change their lives, solving the small, everyday problems that lived on single sheets of paper. Back then, Zach had laughed, that dismissive, patronizing laugh of his. He'd scoffed, "A library volunteer, Amanda? Seriously? What's that going to pay you? Pennies? You're far better off staying home, looking after Samantha, looking after me." So, I'd let the dream go, like so many others. I'd packed it away in a dusty box in the attic of my mind. But now, I lived for no one but myself. My life was my own canvas. And I figured, with a lightness in my step I hadn't felt in decades, it was high time I finally started to paint the life I'd once, so long ago, imagined. And this time, there would be no one to tell me which colors I wasn't allowed to use. My reward wasn't just the money or the legal victory. It was the quiet, unshakable knowledge that I had finally, truly come home to myself.